July 12, 1943. While Nazi tanks still burned at Kursk, the Soviets were already launching the largest counterattack in history. 2 million men, 2,500 tanks, and a plan that would destroy the German army forever. This is that story. The Germans just lost 500 tanks and 70,000 men at Kursk. They're retreating, exhausted, broken. But here's what they didn't know. Soviet generals were already moving. Not one counterattack, 3 massive operations, all launching within weeks. The Germans called it the Red Tide. By the time they realized what was happening, it was already too late. August 5, 1943. The city of Belgorod falls in 48 hours. August 23rd. Kharkov, a fortress the Germans held for 2 years, captured. By September, the Soviets had liberated 2,000 miles of territory. The question isn't how they won, it's how they moved so fast the Germans couldn't even respond. Let me show you. Meet Captain Maria Oktyabrskaya. Her husband was killed by the Germans, so she sold everything she owned, bought a T-34 tank, and named it Fighting Girlfriend. She personally wrote to Stalin demanding to fight, and at the Battle of Orel, she didn't just fight, she became a legend. But her story is just one of thousands. Let's rewind to where this all began. After Kursk, the German 9th Army is shattered. Their best panzer divisions, crippled. Marshal Georgy Zhukov sees the opening. He calls it Operation Kutuzov, named after the general who destroyed Napoleon. The target, the city of Orel, a railway hub. Lose Orel, and the entire German supply line collapses. July 12th, the same day Kursk ends, Operation Kutuzov begins. 1.3 million Soviet troops, 2,500 tanks, 3,000 artillery guns. The Germans have no idea what's about to hit them. Here's how insane this was. The Soviets fired over 1 million artillery shells in the first 24 hours. That's 694 shells every minute, for 24 straight hours. German soldiers reported they couldn't hear anything for days afterward. Their defensive positions simply ceased to exist. And then the tanks rolled in. The Battle of Orel became a meat grinder, house to house, street to street. Sergeant Yakov Pavlov's account is haunting. Every step forward cost us blood. But we knew liberating Orel would turn the tide in the entire region. By July 26th, the Soviets had completely surrounded the German 9th Army. 60,000 Germans trapped, cut off. And then came the second operation. While the Germans scrambled to save Orel, the Soviets launched another massive attack 200 miles south. August 3rd. Operation Polkovodets, Rumyantsev. Target, Belgorod and Kharkov. 2 million troops this time. Generals Nikolai Vatutin and Ivan Konev commanded separate fronts, executing a perfect pincer movement. The Germans never saw it coming because they were still focused on Orel. Belgorod fell in 2 days. The German defenders, already weakened from Kursk, crumbled under the Soviet assault. But Kharkov was different. The Germans called it the gateway to Ukraine. They'd held it since 1941. Hitler personally ordered, "Hold Kharkov at all costs." The Soviets had other plans. And this is where things got brutal. August 12th. Soviet forces surrounded Kharkov. What followed was 11 days of the most vicious urban combat of the entire war. Sergeant Mikhail Petrov described it. Every building was a fortress. Every window a sniper's nest. But our resolve was unbreakable. We fought for every inch with blood and fury. German snipers, Soviet flamethrower teams, tank duels at point-blank range in city streets. The Soviets used Katyusha rocket launchers to level entire blocks. By August 23rd, Kharkov was Soviet again. The Germans lost 70,000 more men. But here's the thing. These weren't separate battles. This was all part of one coordinated masterpiece. Let me show you what the Soviet High Command actually did. While the Germans focused on defending Orel in the north, the Soviets attacked Belgorod in the south. When German reserves moved south to save Belgorod, the Soviets intensified at Orel. The Germans were fighting on 3 fronts simultaneously, with no reserves left. Field Marshal Erich von Manstein sent desperate reports to Hitler. Considerable weakening of our combat strength, particularly in armored units. Translation: we're getting destroyed, and there's nothing we can do about it. The Soviets had learned from their brutal losses in 1941 and 42. Now they were the ones doing the teaching. But here's what we recently discovered from declassified archives. The Soviets knew exactly where every German division was positioned. Soviet intelligence had cracked German communications. They intercepted Manstein's reports to Hitler before Hitler even read them. The Germans thought they were reacting to Soviet moves. In reality, the Soviets were 3 steps ahead the entire time. And it was about to get even worse for the Germans. Operation Kutuzov alone cost the Germans 200,000 casualties. Operation Rumyantsev, another 150,000. In 2 months, the Germans lost 500,000 men total. That's 500,000. To put that in perspective, that's more than the entire modern German military. The German army never mounted another major offensive on the Eastern Front, ever. From this moment forward, they were only defending, retreating, dying. But let's talk about what this actually meant. Soviet soldier Ivan Petrov wrote home in August 1943, "We wade through rivers of blood, but I see the unbending will of our people. For the first time, I believe we will win this war." The Soviets lost hundreds of thousands of men too. These victories were paid for in unimaginable sacrifice. Entire divisions were wiped out, families destroyed. But they kept pushing forward because they knew what was at stake: their homeland, their families, their future. Remember Captain Maria and her fighting girlfriend tank? During the battle for Orel, her tank's track was blown off by German anti-tank fire. While her crew stayed inside, Maria climbed out under heavy fire, crawled under her tank, and repaired the track herself. She got her tank moving again and kept fighting. She was later killed in action near Vitebsk. But she received the Hero of the Soviet Union medal. Her story became a symbol of Soviet determination. One person can change a battle. Millions of people can change history. By September 1943, the Soviets had liberated Smolensk. The Dnieper River crossings began. By November, they'd retaken Kiev. The unstoppable German war machine that conquered France in 6 weeks, permanently broken. The strategic implications were massive. The Western Allies saw the Soviets weren't just surviving anymore, they were winning. Lend-Lease aid increased. Stalin's position at future Allied conferences strengthened. The entire balance of World War II shifted. These operations changed everything. They proved the Soviets could not only defend but execute massive offensive operations. The tactics used here, combined arms warfare, deep battle doctrine, strategic deception, became the foundation of Soviet military strategy for decades. Military academies worldwide still study these operations. The coordination of multiple army fronts, the timing, the deception. It was military genius on a scale rarely seen in history. Today in Russia, Victory Day on May 9th celebrates these sacrifices. The Motherland Call statue in Volgograd stands 279 feet tall, honoring these battles. Because these weren't just military victories. They were the turning point. The moment when the Soviet people looked at the Nazi invaders and said, "Never again," and they meant it. Let's put the final numbers on screen. Operation Kutuzov, 1.3 million Soviet troops deployed, 200,000 German casualties. Operation Rumyantsev, 2 million Soviet troops, 150,000 German casualties. Total German losses in 2 months. 500,000 men, irreplaceable armor divisions destroyed, and most importantly, the initiative on the Eastern Front lost forever. They would spend the next 2 years retreating all the way back to Berlin. Military historians mark these operations as the true turning point of the Eastern Front. Not just Stalingrad, not just Kursk, but this, the Soviet counter-offensives of summer 1943. This was when the Red Army transformed from desperate defenders into an unstoppable force. The German generals knew it, Manstein knew it. Hitler refused to believe it. But the writing was on the wall. The Third Reich's days were numbered. By winter 1943, the Soviets had liberated 2,000 miles of territory. The German army would never mount another major offensive in the east. Hitler's nightmare had begun, and it wouldn't end until Berlin fell. The payback was complete. The tide had turned, and history would never be the same. Thank you for watching WW Archives. We work hard every single day researching, writing, and producing the greatest World War content for you. These stories matter. These sacrifices shaped our world, and we're honored to share them with you. If you enjoyed this deep dive into history, please subscribe and help us keep these incredible stories alive. Your support means everything to us, and it helps us continue bringing you the untold chapters of history that deserve to be remembered.